Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wealth Transfer TV. My name is Steve K. I'm the founder and president of Kasyanenko. Friends, welcome to an amazing episode. Today, we've got the author of Blue Shirt. One second here. I'm trying to get his site up as we're doing this. So he has got this Blue Shirt business coaching, and he's training leaders. He is a Master NLP Coach. He trains leaders. He shows you how to get the most out of whatever you're doing. He has a framework. And please welcome Kyle Gillette.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Tell me, when did you release this book?
Well, there's a backstory to this because there was a first version of it that was published about 2 years ago, and then I got a cease and desist from a $8 billion gorilla bully because of the branding on it. And so,
Really?
I had a podcast with a specific name that I won't share, but I had a podcast with a specific name, and they're like, "Hey, you're infringing on our name and our trademark and all this stuff because you do the same thing." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And they said, "Yes, you do." Back and forth, like playground chit chat, pushing each other. And the $8 billion gorilla won. So I changed the name of the podcast, the name of the business, and the name of the book, which meant my book that came out and went number one on 3 lists had to be pulled off the shelves. And then I had to republish it and change the name and then publish it again under the Right Now Leadership name, which is fine because it's going to all work out because God's behind this all. But man, that was crappy. So that all happened and ended in October of this year is when I republished. So that's a long answer, but that's the answer.
Okay, but what is Blue Shirt coaching? Is this an acronym? Blue Shirt Leadership Framework? What does this stand for? Like, what is this? What's the framework here?
Yeah, so blue comes from how I grew up. So I grew up on an orange farm in California. So blue collar is part of it. And then blue also represents blue ocean, just the opportunity in front of you. There's all kinds of opportunity, but it mostly stands for the four pillars, which are be a self-aware leader, lead with accountability, use a growth mindset, and empower others. So those 4 letters of blue are the 4 pillars of my framework and what I walk my clients through as we're coaching together.
And who typically do you coach? What's a typical client for you?
Yep, small business owners, solopreneurs to 25 plus employees in their organizations, and it's a variety of industries, but they all come to me based on a desire to take their plateauing business or their business that's growing but not in a stable way to a place of stability and growth and consistency of growth in terms of the business side of things. The personal side of things, as I'm working with them, typically people come to me because they've got some head trash that they want to get rid of, and they have not been able to figure out how to get rid of it. And so that's where my NLP comes in big ways.
You know what? I love that you just brought up head trash. I forgot where I got that term from. It may have been yeah, it was NLP. So head trash. And I talk about this in our community often in our courses, how to deal with head trash, that conversation that's in your head, that's stopping you, that's saying all these lies that we tend to believe or support. How do you can you quickly take us through a way that give us a key? How can people deal with their head trash in a simple way? How do you coach people?
Yeah, so change has 4 steps to it. And most business owners, most people come at it backward. And so they go, okay, I got to focus. I really got to focus on doing ABC. I got to really focus on getting better at working this particular part of my business. I got to get really better at this. And then, okay, I need to be really intentional about the tasks. So I'm going to stay focused and get really intentional. And then change is going to happen. And then I can create this new thing, or I can build this new thing. Well, that's all fine and good, but it's backward. There's a first step that everybody forgets. And that first step is to release, to let go, because we've programmed ourselves. Our language programs our brains to behave in a certain way.
But
Go ahead.
I'll tell you, for a business owner, an entrepreneur like myself, that sounds like some hippie crap that I don't want to hear. Like, you want me to let go? Let go and let God? I mean, is that what you're telling me, to just let go?
No, well,
Counterintuitive. You know what I mean? Like, it's counterintuitive to a C level executive.
correct. But it's what's needed because it's how it works. So if you think about I mean, in Romans 12:1 and 2, it talks about taking your thoughts captive. It talks about changing the way you think. And when you do that, then things actually change because everything is manifested really from your thoughts. That's where who we are is our thoughts. So in terms of coaching, in terms of the business world, you take those thoughts and you figure out how are they playing out in my business? How are they playing out in my leadership? And if I have thoughts that talk about saying, I'm an imposter, I'm a bad leader, nobody wants to work for me, this isn't going to work, all that kind of language that you wake up at 3 in the morning hearing yourself say to yourself, until you let that go, you're not going to get to learn the lesson that your brain is trying to tell you and then be able to move forward. So we have to release that. We have to deprogram that. And so my work with my clients, the first steps is to find out what all that head trash is, what all that programming is that's basically virus, take it out so that they're free of that programming. And then we move to the next 3 steps.
Okay, so release and let go. I'm going to come back to this because I really want to go after something there.
Yeah.
But what's the second step?
So you create after you've released. Now, if you look at the analogy of a metaphor of a diet, people, right now I'm on a diet to lose 25 pounds, right? So people will go on a diet to lose the weight, to let go of the weight so that they feel better, so they can move forward in whatever ways they want to move forward in their physical life. But if you don't let go of what's in your head related to that, then you can't create this new version of yourself. You can't create this new future for yourself. So until you let go of the head trash that continues to get you to eat too many cookies like me, or to go and eat at 8 p.m. instead of being done with dinner when I'm supposed to be done with dinner, right?
Like me.
Yep.
So
So then
go
you
ahead.
go back to it. So when you let go of all that stuff, then the second step is you create from a place of freedom because you're not being pulled back in like a rubber band to that old lifestyle, that old approach to things. And then go ahead.
No, I have so much I want to go into, but let's go. I'm holding myself back. I want you to finish the 4 steps. I can go into the meat. But go ahead. Number 3.
Yep. So once you've created from a place of freedom, that now you can take intentional action because you're not being held back. You're not there's none of this crap that your brain's trying to help you with anymore. It's helped you already. And now you move forward, you take intentional action, which allows you to stay focused. And that's the fourth step, focus. Because I don't know how many business owners that I've worked with that they talk about ADD. I have ADD. I'm everywhere. I have all these fires I'm putting out. Well, it's because they're just not focused because they haven't let go of the stuff that's dragging them back, right? And recently I worked with this guy that he sat there with a fidget spinner while we worked together, like most of the time, and like moved around and just craziness most of the phone calls. And then we did a release process. I call it a breakthrough session. We did a breakthrough session, and I saw him the next Tuesday at a networking event. And he basically announced to everybody what we did together and that he was all but free of his ADD. And because all that trash in his head was gone that freaked his brain out, which made him physically be fidgeting like crazy, right? So, and he's one of 2 people that's happened to that I've worked with. And it's incredible what happens when you let go of all that baggage that we carry in our minds about who we are and what we can do.
It's interesting that you're calling it baggage. I would agree it's baggage, and people listening would say, okay, this is baggage. Um, I find that the head trash though makes itself very real. Like it makes a very good case for it being truth, as opposed to my interpretation of who I am. Right. So, how do you? Let's take the cookies part, if that's okay. Right. You eating cookies, right?
Sure.
So tell me how really you want to lose 25 pounds. What's the release and let go of the head stress? What's the head stress that you need cookies to make you feel better? For me, it's comfort, right? I
Yeah.
get stressed out. I'm thinking about work. I comfort eat, right? And I
Yep.
think that's going to comfort me.
So the way this works is you have to go back to the root cause of this. And so I did this work on myself as it relates to the cookies, for example. And I went back and I went to the root event in my mind that was why eating that sugar, eating those cookies was so important. And for me, it was when I got home from school, my mom often would be baking chocolate chip cookies. And so I'd get home from school and I might have had a bad day or had had a bad experience or a good day or a good experience, doesn't matter. But my brain would then associate that cookie eating with the pleasure of the cookie and making me feel better. And so now as a 40-year-old, I go and grab that cookie when I don't feel too great or eat too many of them. And so for me, I had to go to that experience one of the first times that I could remember of eating that. It was actually not even the cookie, it was the cookie dough. I'd eat the raw dough, right? So I'd eat the raw dough. And then I started to remember where I used to eat raw brown sugar. I'd sneak it from my grandmother's kitchen while my mom and my great grandma actually were talking. And I'd go sneak in there as Rush Limbaugh's playing on this radio in the kitchen. And I'd hear the EIB network thing. And then I'd
Oh
sneak
yeah.
some brown sugar. Well, it was a comfort. It was a way for me to comfort myself. And so I needed my brain to teach me what the real lesson is there. And I had to learn that the comfort wasn't going to come from the food. The comfort needed to come from a different source. And once I learned what that source was, in this case for me, it's God, then I could let go of that habit, of that head trash that says you need cookies to feel good about yourself.
Yes.
So then I released it, and now I can still eat cookies, but I control the amount that I consume. And there was like 3 different dessert options at our small group last night. And I could have been snuck in there any time to go snag them, but I didn't, right? Because I've let go of that head trash that says you need that to feel good about yourself.
All right. Did you have to replace that? You know what I'm talking about? Broken record with another song? Like, did you know?
No, because the replacement is the lesson learned. So the unconscious mind has 21 prime directives, and I'll just mention 2 of them. One of them is it represses negative memories. So that when you have that stuff in your life that sucked, like there's a lot of people that I know that I've worked with in my previous career, I could say, had a lot of abuse. And you don't want those memories coming up constantly, right? Or the things that you did, if there's like drug or alcohol history, the things that you did, those don't need to be constantly coming up and reminding you of those past mistakes or those past experiences. So it represses them. But then another prime directive is it presents repressed memories basically when you're ready to deal with them. And so when I'm working with my clients, whether it's a major thing or a minor thing, we're getting to the point where their brain presents that repressed memory to learn the lesson from it. And then you learn the lesson, and then the emotions tied to that memory go away. This is called mental and emotional release, is what the technique is called.
I could find all of this in the Bible, what you're talking about. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I could find all of this rooted back into the Bible somewhere.
Yep. 100%.
Just in case everyone thinks we've gone off the deep end, but this is real. So then you have the intentionality, intentional action. So what does that look like from the Cookie Monster perspective?
So after you do the release, that's what okay.
Well,
So
release then create, right?
yes, we got to talk about create first.
Okay,
So
create.
create is, so our mind is everything, perception is reality. Let me say it that way. So every second, let me give you an illustration first. So when you think about your kitchen, I want you to picture your refrigerator. Okay. Now picture your refrigerator is hovering above you.
Mhm.
Okay. And every second that refrigerator opens up, the freezer and the refrigerator open up, and 2 million toothpicks fall out of it, and they fall all around you. And every one of those toothpicks represents one bit of information. Like that there's a certain sound in the room, there's a certain smell, there's a certain heat, there's a temperature, there's a color, all that. Those 2 million bits every single second. That's what our unconscious mind has to filter every second. So boom, it opens up, boom, it opens up every single second. Our conscious mind can only filter 126 bits per second. And so,
Oh,
right. So that's a significant difference. And I do an illustration using these dots on a screen where it takes a long time to watch all just 1 million bits go across the screen when I'm doing presentations on this. But 126 is, this tiny amount of information in comparison, of course. So when I consciously choose to focus on that I suck, I'm a loser, I'm an a-hole, I'm a sinner, I can't think clearly, my team sucks, my employees suck, my relationship is terrible. Or I flip it and I go, you know what? My employees are improving. My business is doing well, ABC, XYZ, whatever. In a positive light, my brain goes and finds those things because no matter what, those 2 million toothpicks are still falling. So you reach in and you grab the 126 you want instead of being controlled, and the 126 just kind of come at you. That's
So,
why we got to take our thoughts captive to the obedience.
oh, yo, that is amazing, brilliant. So we are intentionally choosing what thoughts we want to filter in, and if we're going to choose, we might as well choose something that's going to empower us rather than make us feel like a loser.
Right. So Philippians 4:8, I don't have it memorized yet, but it talks about think about whatever is pure, whatever is right, whatever
Yes.
is good, righteous, all that stuff. Think about these things. And if you do, now you're grabbing the 126 bits that God wants you to grab.
Oh man.
But it's a choice because God gives us free will. So you get to the create part. The create is I'm now going to create a new reality for myself based on choosing what bits I want to see frequently, what I want to grab a hold of, those 126 toothpicks.
Right. And whatever we perceive, we believe. So perception is reality. So
Yep.
we are literally choosing our reality. And if our thoughts are manifesting our life, we might as well. This is beautiful. This
Yeah.
is beautiful. So then so we got the release, we got the create.
Yep.
We're choosing the 126 bits of information out of the 2 million. Uh, and our mind will naturally reinforce whatever we're focusing on, correct?
Yep.
So the intentional action, intentionality part.
Yes. So let me give you part B of create. So part B of create is I've now chosen the 126 bits, but what is it focused towards? What what am I creating? I have to decide what that is. And so when I'm working with my clients, we create what's called an avatar. And you can just call it your future self. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it, but we call it an avatar. And you describe who you're going to be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically in a specific time period, 5 to 20 years. So most people pick 5 to 7, I've discovered. I picked 5 personally. And you go, okay, this is who I'm going to be 5 years from now spiritually. This is who I'm going to be emotionally. This is who I'm going to be mentally. And this is who I'm going to be physically. And you describe it as if it already exists. Because remember, your unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a perceived reality and reality. Right? This is why when you watch a movie, you can be so riveted by it and cry and get angry because it's real to your brain. So might as well leverage what God gave us in our unconscious mind and create that future that you want. Now, I believe that God still is completely in control. I can't just make something appear like a genie by any means. But if I want to design a little bit more of a future, like a goal, then you put it out there and then you take intentional action, which is step 3, intentional action towards that future version of who you're going to be.
And as long as it doesn't, it just has to be a action step moving forward.
Yeah.
Some people say, "Well, I don't know how to create that guy. Like, I don't know how to create that guy.
Yeah.
That's why I want to be that guy. If I knew how to be him, I would have been him already, right?"
Right. So that's the beauty because then you go, what does it look like when I arrive 5 years from now? So I have this narrative in my life of who I'm going to be 5 years from now, what it looks like. And it has to do with just wrapping up a in-person event with 25 Christian men. And I'm walking away from that experience. It's in a not a forested area, but like in an area that's full of, trees and stuff like that. And I'm going to be with my family and we're going to go to a Verbo to go hang out with friends. And there's way more details to it, but I create this really vivid picture of what it's going to be like to have arrived. And then my brain has to fill the gap.
So I was going to say, man, you've put a lot of detail in there. I would imagine you may even know what it smells like. Are you looking for to make it as real as possible? So
100%.
smells, is it light? Is it sunny? Yeah, how warm is it? Things like that
Yes.
to make
So
it as real as possible.
right. It's a 2 or 3 pages from a novel. I ask my clients to create a story that a 12-year-old would understand and be intrigued by. That the character at the end of that story is so fascinating that your 12-year-old nephew will be like, who's that guy? That guy's really cool or whatever, right? And so you describe it like a novel. So the way I ask people is I say, see what you see, feel what you feel, and hear what you hear. And so you picture that 5, 7, 10 years from now, and your brain, the beauty of our unconscious mind is it's so much more powerful. 2 million bits per second versus 126 bits per second. So much more powerful. So it takes in all this information and grabs what it needs to create this future version of yourself a day at a time. And so as long as you're consistently reviewing who you're going to be, your brain will do most of the work of telling you what actions to take.
So that's also important. Reminding yourself,
Yeah.
because you've been programmed the opposite. Typically, if someone's listening right now, so reminding yourself of this new version, this future self in 5 years, 10 years, whatever that is,
Yep.
and until it's like until you believe it, until it starts manifesting, right?
Correct. And
So,
you'll notice the little pieces that manifest, which is the beauty of it, because your brain grabs those little pieces to prove itself to be right, because the brain can't be wrong. It doesn't do negatives.
wow, you're such a breath of fresh air. I'm so grateful you're here. uh Focus now. So now we've got this clear picture that this intentional action, right? And then talk about the fourth step, focus.
Yeah. So focus is making sure that it's called the aim is another way to look at it. So if you create your avatar, you have to create guardrails. And so those guardrails are in the 6 areas of life. So, you've got your career, you've got your family, you've got your intimate relationship, your personal development, and there's, a couple more. And so you need to figure out what does it look like to maintain that aim in that area of life? What does an ideal career look like? What does ideal personal development look like? What does ideal health look like? So you define that very clearly, right? 5 years from now, right? But it's also an ongoing thing that you never complete. However you define this part of your life, this career area, this personal development area, or health, it's an ongoing income a habit that you just really never complete. And then you answer also why. So ongoing habit and why. And if you break out of those barriers within that aim, you hit the guardrail and then you bounce back in and it keeps you focused because your brain knows that this is where I need to be aiming.
Okay, I'm going to paraphrase for my own sake.
Sure.
We 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 describe our future self, and we say this is who I am 5 years from now. This is what I look like. This is what my career looks like. My family, my spiritual, my physical, my emotional, financial, right? And then you're asking what does that person have to do on a daily basis to get there? And
Correct.
that's the habit we're creating,
Correct.
right? So someone who wants to uh, not be overweight will probably have to eat different than me.
Yeah.
Probably will have to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, or someone who wants to be a billionaire has a different focus, and the guard, and that really, that's how you have the guardrails. Is I guess I'm just thinking out loud. When you have this, who does this future Steve or future Kyle, what action or habits does he have that got him there? That's very easy then to make a decision on what you should or shouldn't do in life, right? Like if the future me is this family man and someone who's healthy and fit, well then I'm not boozing up every day. I'm not eating pizza every day, right? And I'm not going to strip clubs because I want a family and a career. So those are the guardrails there.
Yep. And the reason that this works in comparison to just like manifestation is you did that first step. Because if people try to go, okay, I'm going to be this, I'm going to manifest this person, I'm going to be this, so I'll read one of mine. My aim for my health says to have the physical strength, mobility, and flexibility of a healthy man 20 years younger than me. So there always will be someone 20 years younger than me, right? To live a lifestyle of fun and have the energy to be consistently able to show up physically for various adventures and endeavors. That's my aim. Okay. Now, if I haven't released the head trash or the baggage that says you're fat or you can't be healthy. Or remember when you couldn't get out of bed because of those allergies you had? That's going to continue. It's coming back, buddy. If I haven't released that, which I have, but if I haven't, that aim will never work for me. So you have to do the release work in order to create this intentional focus.
So an entrepreneur who people who are listening here, they're all leaders or they're entrepreneurs. Some of the head trash is I'm not good enough. I can't do this. If they only knew the truth about me. I mean, that's years and years of beating yourself with the same drum. How do you? I want to go that release and let go. Like, is there a key to release and let that go? Because that's automatic in your thought process. Like you don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah, there is a key, and it's something that I do with my clients, and it is called mental and emotional release. And I'll give you the brief version of how it works. So give me some head trash that you've got in your mind.
I'm nowhere near qualified to be leading this organization. It's so beyond my capabilities, my education.
Okay.
I'm not good enough.
Okay. So then you go, can you remember the first time you had that thought and that experience? And when
Yes.
you okay, so you remember that first time, and then you go back to it. And here's what's amazing about the brain. You can't have emotions in the future.
But what about when we're creating our avatar? Can't we? Aren't we visualizing emotions?
Yeah, but it's now.
Oh,
Right? So you can't have emotions about the future, and you have to have even you can have emotions about the future, but they're still now. So
right.
here's how it works. You go back to that experience and you feel it, you see it, you hear it, so you remember it. But then you have to disassociate from it. Okay. And what does that mean? That means it's like you're watching the experience like a movie. So now you're kind of quote unquote float above it or float behind it. So you're before the experience, before it even happened, and you're kind of watching it. You're like that older version of yourself giving advice to the younger version of yourself, but at this time you're just watching and you're not advising. Okay, so now you're before it and you're seeing it happen. So here's what happens to your brain. Your brain, because perception is reality, you're seeing this event and it's in front of you,
Right.
metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
So then, because you can't have emotions in the future, your brain has to let go of the emotions associated with that experience, with that limiting belief, has to let go of the emotions associated with that limiting belief. So then you let go of them because your brain can't have them in front of it. And then when you do that, you get to learn the lesson. The lesson comes at that, typically right at that moment. And then you can move forward to the next event that creates that limiting experience, that limiting belief or negative emotion. And you keep pressing forward until all of those experiences have released and you've learned the lesson from each of them. And now you're free from that problem. And it takes 15 minutes at the most. And I do it with all my clients. And it starts with you work through 7 specific emotions. And then we work on limiting beliefs if there's any left. And typically there's only a couple left. Right. So it sounds a little funky, but again, you can't have those emotions in the future and so or those limiting beliefs, and so it lets them go and gives you the lesson from it.
Is this in the blue shirt coaching book and the in right now leadership rather?
No, that this is not in there.
So they have to go to blueshirtcoaching.com and they could set up a time with you or their resources there because you were reading from something. Um let me go into your site here. I want folks to this is very, very powerful. If you guys can get this, if you can understand the power that's here, um where so if they come to blueshirtcoaching.com, what's the best thing for them to do? What's the first thing we want folks to do to go through this process? Because I want to go through this process. So if I'm here, what do I do? Do I go to about resources? Where do I go from here?
Well, if you're quickly intrigued and you want to learn more, just set up a time with me. And it's you just scroll down a little bit on that page, and there's a link. Schedule your free strategy session. That would be the step to take if people are super ready. If they're not, they can take the little business and person and leadership assessment that I created, and that'll give me a little bit of a pulse of where they are in those areas, and that's at the top of the page. Um, so those would be the two
Okay.
steps that taken. Yeah.
All right. People here want to know, when they hit this schedule your free strategy session, are they going to get a call with a salesperson to
No.
enroll you in your coaching program? Because they'll drive them nuts.
No. If you click it, it'll take you to my Calendly page basically.
This is your
And
schedule call with Kyle.
yep. Yep, there I am. There's my
It's
calendar.
really you. It's not a trained sales team that will get us to buy. I love this. Okay, so they come in here and you do the initial assessment. That's what that is.
Correct.
Okay. Uh I love it. Guys, go to blueshirtcoaching.com. Just click that link below and you can click here, leadership advantage assessment.
Yeah. If you want to just directly talk to me, skip that. That gives me a little bit of insight of what's going on with you. But if you want to just have the conversation, do the 45-minute call, just click that, set that up. Because for me, I can't expect you to spend thousands of dollars on coaching without you experiencing my coaching. Like that's, in my opinion, that's not very fair to the buyer. So that's why I offer a real actual coaching conversation. And then we discuss what the nuances of what it looks like to experience the Leadership Advantage program and do the breakthrough session and all that kind of stuff. Right.
I love that. I think that's the way to do it. We offered coaching and training as well, not at this level, but primarily because we saw a bait and switch. We saw someone pitching on a webinar. You book a call, it's with some other guy who's not doing a coaching call with you or an assessment. They're just trying to sell you something, and you feel deceived. You feel like, oh, it's one of these guys again. I love that you actually spend time and you're so into the person. I think that's great. I think it's a great business model.
Yeah. And this is why I have clients that they sign up for 3 months. That's the package. It's a 12-week program. But then I have people that have been with me for over 3 years. So, they just continue month to month. It's just a month to month and we just continue on. And some people sign up for 3 months and they end up with a year, 2, 3 years. And I was actually praying about that this morning. Just like how grateful I am that that's what's been happening in my business.
Oh, that's a real testimony to the value that you're offering them, because I can't say I've been with a coach for more than 3 years. There's no,
Mhm.
like, at some point, like, the value ends. Like, so that's really impressive. That's really impressive.
Right. Well, because the value is within you, not in me.
Oh, wow. You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you, Kyle, for coming here. Guys, I want you to go click that link, blueshirtcoaching.com. Remember the 4 steps: release and let go, create intentional actions, and be focused. And I love your approach. Everything I can point back to the Bible. The root cause of everything. Remove every root of bitterness. All these things.
Yep.
I love this. Romans 12:1 and 2, renewing your mind and having the mind of Christ, and focusing, like in Ephesians 4, like you said, on the good things, those things that are good and honorable. And I just had this exercise. I did this for myself because I was so swamped with business, right? I had to take a step back and say, I'm going to do what the Bible says and focus on something really good. And it's amazing how the
Mm.
stress just came off of me. And I felt, oh, it's not really as bad as I think it is. It's actually pretty good, to be
Yep.
honest.
Yep.
And wow, this is great. Um, I love this. Friends, click the link below. Kyle, thank you so much for coming here. I highly recommend you get his book as well. Go in here. You could set up a time with Kyle. Imagine that, a real time with this guy, not a salesperson. And if you want, go get Right Now Leadership. And you can go to blueshirtcoaching.com, the link below /book. There's 2 links, one for blueshirtcoaching.com and one for Right Now Leadership. And I highly recommend you get this. You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. You really gave this concentrated, value packed session. I love it, man.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, and I love this stuff. I love talking about it. It
So do
works. It
So
works,
do I.
period. So
I'm fascinated with this stuff, and this is the key to success. This is really the key, whatever that means to you. This is the key. I
right,
mean, it doesn't get more basic than what you're dealing with.
right.
This is awesome.
Yep.
God bless you, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Shalom.